Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. We're going to be speaking today about a very interesting subject, and that is wellness. Dean Ornish years ago was speaking to a teacher at his university, and they asked him to explain the difference between illness and wellness. And he said illness is about the individual, while wellness has a we in it, So it takes a culture, it takes a community to get us well. So this is a very interesting subject. We've had wellness coaches, frankly, for 30 years, but it's never really penetrated very well into the medical community, because I think many people did not and still do not realize, which I think sort of came to me 35 years of, over 40 years of being in neurosurgery, frankly, that maybe 30 years ago I started realizing the majority of people I was seeing, perhaps 80%, needed coaching. That's what they needed, health habits. They were not participating in their health care. So it's always been a very interesting subject to me. I went to the National Wellness Association annual conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a few weeks ago, and I was there a whole week. I must say it was just great. I loved it. It was on the campus of the University of Minnesota. I walked across the Mississippi River, which was flooding every day, and it was sort of exciting. And to hear the latest leaders in the field who've written books, like Michael Orlowski, who wrote Wellness Coaching for Lasting Lifestyle Change, Joel Bennett, who I made a friend out of. I spent 2 full days with him taking his course. Only 4 of us in the course, so you can imagine how much I learned, and of course I think I have a lifetime friend now. He wrote a book called Heart-Centered Leadership, which I thought was very good. And I like to look at wellness from a standpoint of our own lives. So I put together the Culture of Wellness Circle, which we'll be discussing a little bit. But also like to look at it as our job and the corporation or partnership, whatever it is, that is above us. For those of us who are employed, the wellness is now entering the workplace. When years ago that really wasn't the case. It was just about machines and chemicals and poisons, and it wasn't our participation of how we feel. But now we are starting to consider what the employee, whether they're stressed or not, whether they have children or not, how they impact their ability to work, and companies and corporations are starting to look at this, some better than others, no doubt about it. My friend John Mackey from Whole Foods wrote a book called Conscious Capitalism. A great book to read, how certain corporations take in consideration the products that they're selling and what impact that has on the people's lives. You can see Whole Foods, for example. What type of food are they selling? They label all their food, for example, in terms of nutrient density. And so you can see that, we need to take a hat off to John Mackey. And all of us have had bosses over the years, and we have some now. And you might say to yourself, is the culture of my corporation or company participating in a holistic wellness approach to their products, to their employees, and which is important. So you're very lucky if you have in the leadership at the top someone participating big time in a wellness project. No doubt about it. And I've had the pleasure of working for companies like that, and do now. I think this is a big thing. So, and at this wellness meeting, which I attended, certainly I learned some things, and we were reviewing companies from all over the country. Oh yeah, from all over the country. I met people from Saudi Arabia. In fact, I got an invitation to speak to the airlines about wellness in Dubai coming up in the next few months, which I'm looking forward to. For example, some things that I thought were good ideas, for example, would be that, number one, if the leadership really gets involved and are a good example of what wellness is about, that works. And that wellness will be discussed, even if just a few minutes, at every major meeting of that partnership or company or whatever. That wellness is considered. And I'm not just talking about health and diet, I'm talking about wellness of the community, the psychology, how they feel, whether the employees have a chance for advancement, are they working at a very rapid pace and getting no breaks, for example. Just wellness in general. So that wellness be brought up at every corporate meeting, even if it's just for a few minutes. I think that would be great. I think good companies do that. Another approach would be at every safety meeting that a company has, that wellness will be brought up at the same time. It's automatic. That way, you see what I mean? It's getting to be a culture. It's getting to be a culture in that company. Another thing that I found is where we have different groups inside of a company that they develop wellness champions. So take an employee who receive a bit of training, can be done through a website or personal training, so that be a champion. For example, I work at a hospital where a group of nurses on the floor, there would be, for example, one wellness champion. And that's a person who's had a little bit of special training, who might be interested or might be a good example, which would help. And that person makes a friend to every employee that works with them, but especially to new ones coming in, put their arm around them, speak to them, and if they feel like, that although the company didn't know it when they applied, but they're, say, type 2 diabetic and have significant health issues, that fellow employee helps them to get the materials to try to perhaps have them develop better health habits, better exercise habits, perhaps eat better, but and then work with other lunch and learns and different things that could be provided by the company, which could be held maybe even just for the wellness champions, to fully educate them, to give the people working there develop a love for the company, a love for their job. They're getting better. They're getting well all around. So I like the idea of a wellness champion. I like the idea of a culture starting at the top, working its way all the way down. They have found that financial rewards generally don't work that great. I mean, they have some value. I met at a recent state job wellness conference. I met a person in charge of that at a company with about 35 employees. And that individual had frankly taken the whole 35 employees and get them on a wellness course. That was saving the company so much money that since it was owned by one person, that CEO, although not perfectly healthy himself, although changing, developing their leadership now, that he decided to give health care to those 35 employees free. Yeah, free. Would you believe it? And he did it because it was saving him money. The employees were healthy. They had developed this great culture, and we have to compliment the young lady that was their wellness coordinator, who I met, who turned the whole company around. Isn't that frankly wonderful? So rewards do sometimes work. At this wellness meeting, I met an instructor who was working, frankly, for some job involved quite a bit of dirty work. It was garbage collection for the city of Seattle, I think it was. And she developed wellness champions and rewards for people getting well, developing this culture. And she had one group that frankly did the dirtiest part of the job, working down the river with the garbage. It was just unbelievable. They were all of a certain ethnic group. They were all overweight. And she managed to turn them around. They start losing weight. The type 2 diabetes start going away. They spoke very little English. And now she was encouraging them to teaching them the English language. And they gave a big award, a big trophy. And these people, about 50 of them who had this job, were just elated when they were called the wellness champions. They were called the wellness champions. And it was done by leadership of one individual in the city of Seattle itself, who embraced this culture of wellness and started hiring teachers for that. So rewards, trophies, sometimes some money, some time off. A number of corporations that I saw would allow you to work out for an hour and you were paid. That was interesting. Yeah, they could go to the gym, work out for an hour, and they were paid during this time. Some companies don't want to do that or can't afford to do that, but that was their reward, and it worked. And I thought that was interesting. And to have some lunch and learns, I think, would be a great thing at a company level, where I spoke to one on Friday at a company, and they were just starting these. And I spoke to them about how to live to be 100, okay, diet, exercise, and a whole bunch of things I've written about. That was sort of interesting. A lot of companies are starting to do that. So this is at a company level. And remember, I really enjoyed this wellness meeting. Learned a great deal. They've held this for 25 years. It was always held in Wisconsin. This was the first time in Minneapolis, and they're going to have it there from now on. And I've developed great relationships there. And they invited me to be a speaker at some of the other conferences. So from a corporate standpoint, I think leadership is important. My friend Joe Bennett, who I met there, wrote a book called Heart Center Leadership, and you can see his point is for the leaders of the corporation to put their heart into it. If you put your heart into it, the employees will pick up on it. You'll have a stronger company. And this was brought up many times at this conference. Now, in terms of the employees themselves, this is what I call the Magic 8, the wellness wheel, which I put together a number of years ago. And wellness is, like I said, it's not just about being overweight, or it's a complex. And let me review it a little bit for you. Number one is, I found over all these years that I practiced neurosurgery, 44 years, that we should get away from the ill to the pill. You know, you tell the provider what you got and you hand it a prescription. We need to get you involved with your health care a good 90% of the time. There's some things can happen to a sudden heart attack, for example. I mean, this is not a time to start your wellness program afterwards, yes, but you may angioplasty, heart operation, whatsoever. And this is not what I'm speaking about, but I'm speaking about afterwards or prevention to begin with. You can prevent a great deal of these diseases. So patients have to learn to participate in their health care. It's not done very much today. We lack knowledge. We lack knowledge. Many people do not know, for example, what proper eating is, what proper exercise is. Only 3.5% of the people in the United States participate in their health care. Yeah, 3.5% participate in health care. You might have thought it's 10, it's 3.5. So we have a problem here. So but you must participate in your health care. Look on the internet, read some books, maybe get second opinions, and develop some knowledge and do some reading. This is number one to me on the circle of wellness. You must gain some knowledge. The biggest item on this Magic 8 after that, frankly, is nutrition. 80–90% of the illnesses that we develop over our lifetime, you want to live to be 100, you have to eat properly. And there's tremendous lack of knowledge there. Tremendous lack of knowledge. And I'm not blaming anybody, but many on the list. A good example would be the other day, Time magazine on its cover. And what does it say? To our utter surprise, it says, eat butter. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. For 50 years, the government, the McGovern Commission, the USDA, the Heart, Lung, Blood Institute, NIH, American Heart Association, Ansel Keys, telling us that fat is the cause of vascular disease. They've been telling us to eat a low-fat diet. Certainly, there are good and bad fats, but the point is, all fat is not bad. It's not bad. We have the omega-3s and the omega-6s, and depends on where the beef was raised and where the fish are from a pond or from the ocean. So there are good and bad fats. You have to learn what they are, but that's not the major cause of vascular disease. Yes, omega-6s can cause inflammation in your arteries and cause vascular disease, but your main enemy is sugar. It's the sugar. And they've been teaching the fat theory of cause of vascular disease. And I'm sorry to say, they knew differently. They knew differently. They were getting money from industries to support their associations and did not allow other opinions altogether. And if you spoke up, you were shouted down. You couldn't write articles. They wouldn't publish your articles. It's a very shameful history. This article in Time magazine is in it the reference for a book called The Big Fat Surprise. Get that book and read it. The whole history of that is in there in great detail. You need to know it for proper nutrition. You spend another few minutes on it. What do I recommend? I eat seafood. Food I see is food I eat. No, let's just have a laugh a minute. Okay, generally I would recommend, you have to learn something about wheat. A guy just wrote a book, Dr. Davis, a cardiologist, called Wheat Belly. I suggest you read it because wheat has amylopectin A in it. It causes a rapid rise in blood sugar. It has gluten in it, and to avoid white bread, for example, would be a good thing. So that's part of the problem we're having. I eat 80% veg. I would say 80% vegetable type diet. Foods of color, vitamins, minerals, and the 25,000 phytochemicals that are in these foods. But I also include onions and mushrooms, which don't have color. They're full of these 25,000 phytochemicals, the interaction of which leads to great health. Look good, live to be 100. 20% maybe nuts, animal products, but animal products raised on organic farms, fish from the ocean, not from a pond. Always ask the waiter, is this an organic product, or is this from a fish pond where they get carbon products and chicken litter and fatty foods? And of course, what the fish eats is what you eat. What the beef eats is what you eat. So you got to make sure where this comes from. Did I say don't eat any animal products? No, but eat the healthy ones. But then read labels on sugar. And actually, it's the fructose in sugar that's even worse. I mean, sugar, glucose, is toxic. But fructose is, I'm sorry to say, fructose, frankly, is almost poisonous. And 50% of table sugar is glucose, 50% is fructose. Fructose is metabolized in the liver, makes you fatty liver. It makes the very low density LDL, the very low density LDL that causes inflammation in your 300,000 miles of capillaries and blood vessels. It's not the fat, except, remember I said, the omega-6 in fat is part of it. But the main enemy is the sugar. And you need to know the chemistry of sugar. C6, H12O6, glucose, fructose is the same, except one is a mirror image of the other, so the body looks at it differently. You need to know about that, about proper eating. And I'll get off that subject at this time. Let's get to physical fitness. That's certainly a big item. And I'm not asking you to run marathons. Marathons are great. I admire the people that run them, and I even recommend them. But most of us, if we would just walk 30, 60 minutes a day, that alone is plenty of exercise. Maybe add 2 or 3 days a week. You lift some light weights, and maybe get on the floor and do about 10 minutes of core exercise to keep your core strong, so that you don't develop backaches over the years. I think it's big. Core exercises, some stretching, core exercise, light weightlifting, walk 30, 60 minutes a day. For a majority of people, that'd be fine. But we only have 3.5% of the American people exercising like that. What are the rest to do? Well, I've got an answer for you there. If you just don't have the time or no inclination to do that, which is fine, that I've given some talks, and I know quite a bit about something called sitting disease. A gentleman from the Mayo Clinic, James Levine, wrote Move a Little and Lose a Lot, a great book to read. And I know a lot about this subject, because how to increase your calorie burn through the day without a formal exercise program. Let me give an example. Use the stairs instead of an elevator. Stand up while you're using the computer. Some people are on a treadmill using a computer. If you can improve your calorie burn, say 200 calories a day, that you normally wouldn't burn by increasing non-exercise activity thermogenics. NEAT, you can increase your NEAT, say 200 calories a day in 1 year. That's 20 pounds. 300 calories, that's 30 pounds if you change nothing else. So it's critical for most Americans to improve their NEAT activity, non-exercise activity thermogenics. Take the dog for a walk. Do some dancing. All these are NEAT activities. Improve your calorie burn. This, I think, is very important for most Americans because they don't have the time. Some are disabled, for example, but even if you're disabled, if you can just stand, you do some knee bends, some quad exercises, you're burning some calories. So if you add up your NEAT activity to 200-300 extra calories a day you're burning, for example, then you can have a much better health control. So I think sitting disease is a big thing. I got some of that on the internet. You can find a total lecture on that, 1 hour long. I think this is very important. So physical fitness is critical, but I tell you, if you plan to lose 50 pounds through physical fitness, it's a toughie. It's a toughie. It is a lot easier to eat the way I taught you, to avoid sugar and wheat, and get your belly will fall off you. Matter of fact, my biggest problem is going to a tailor to have my pants brought in. Yeah, I don't believe it. I must have had 10, 12 pounds. I thought a perfect figure, which may not have been true. I cut out white bread. Bango, my pants is this far off the belly. And my pants, I'm having to bring in it. So it's easy to do. That didn't take a month. It's easy to do. This nation, 1 in 3 people have pre-diabetes or diabetes. It's frankly heading to 1 in 2. You got to have a normal body mass index. That's critical. You want to be 30 or so on the belly measurement. You have to watch the children, many of them overweight now. The kids are going to eat what you're eating, so you have to teach the children. And sugar, for most of the time, sugar drinks, that's 50% of obesity. Next to my wheel here, spirituality. I think spirituality is an important thing for wellness of any religion. I think any of us that follow certain beliefs, I think it's very important. You're going to have a better life. You're going to have a better life, and especially get the kids involved. Even walking down the street yesterday, I heard a little child who was looking at a cross on a hill and asked the mother whether Jesus had died there. I mean, when you think of the faith of this little child, no matter what religion, I believe in equality, all religions. I think it's important to teach a child. They're going to be better. Adults are going to be better. The world will be better. And then be tolerant of other people's religions. So I believe in spirituality. You're going to be less stressful. And a good rule, too, incidentally, to have at home. After 9 o'clock, talking about stress, after 9 o'clock in my house, problems are not discussed. That's the time for prayer and faith or reading or whatever. 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. in my house, we don't talk about problems. That's a good stress reliever. Now, number 5, so wellness is a way of life. It's a process. It's not just eating, it's a process. It's about spirituality and socialization and exercise. And we want it to be that way at the workplace and in your life. You get the whole family involved. If you notice the whole family is overweight, don't blame it on your genetics, because odds are 90% chance you're all eating the same food. And genetics pays 10% in your health. Yeah. The major genetic diseases is 2%. They spend all this money on research and genome project and all that, and frankly, they may help 1% of the people. If they would spend that kind of money on teaching us wellness and eating correctly and exercise, they could save $1 trillion like that. They ought to do both. They ought to do both. But there's not much wellness teaching going on at the government level. The money gets thrown at research projects, which we know what causes most disease. We know what causes most disease. A lot of the money should go there. So wellness is a way of life. When does education begin? People invariably say, at conception. No, education begins before conception. Why is that? Because they have found now through genetics that we have telomeres in our chromosomes which can be affected by our habits, by how much exercise, what we're eating, what toxins we're exposed to. So what the mother and father did before conception, how much they exercise, what they ate, what toxins they're exposed to, will affect the egg and the sperm. The child is then conceived, and then what goes on in the mother's womb. What is she doing? Is she smoking? Is she taking drugs? Is she taking medication? Is she exercising? Is she happy or sad or depressed individual? This will affect the baby. So education begins before conception. Before conception, yes. Incidentally, food is genetic information. The reason a lot of us are getting sick today is our food is not consistent with our genetic structure. We've only had 10,000 years in developing these new foods when our genes don't change but 0.002% every 20,000 years. You see the point? Our bodies are on fire from this influx of food that is not used to. Most of it is hybridized or genetically modified, like our wheat was changed in 1948 by Dr. Berlo at the Rockefeller Institute outside Mexico. That increased the yield of wheat 10 times, but they never checked it on humans. No experiments done on humans. And the world is revolting to it with a huge amount of obesity throughout the world. So learn also to integrate the mind and the body and the spirit. Our head was cut off our bodies in 1635 by Descartes, and he gave it to the church and the body to science, and that's the way we practice medicine. We're acting like we don't know. The kidneys connected to the brain, our heart's connected to the brain through the nervous system and hormones, and we're practicing medicine like there's no attachment there. And many of the illnesses that I saw over the years of 44 years of neurosurgery, but I'm only 39, okay, and really caused by the human mind, by stress. We're living in a very stressful world. Who can predict income from the majority of people? Very tight. Can't pay their mortgage, can barely buy the food, or the internet, the job. We have very stressful stressful life. And our body can only take so much stress. Okay? It affects our subconscious mind, and eventually our subconscious mind is tired of it all and comes out as symptoms. Yeah, bellyache, headache, atypical chest pain. 75% of chest pain is atypical, nothing to do with the heart. But don't misinterpret that. You get a chest pain, you go to the emergency room. But a lot of chest pain is due to stress through the hormones, neuropeptides originating in the brain by our thought process, and the hormonal changes get secreted in our blood and can affect our skin. It can tingle, abdominal pain through the autonomic nervous system, through neurotransmitters, through hormones, neuropeptides. Candace Pert wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion in 1972, a great book to read. Everybody should read it because 80-90% of things that symptoms go to the doctor are in this book. How your mind can affect your body. Candace Pert discovered the opiate receptor sites in our body. Where do drugs work? On these receptors. Candace Pert was the one to discover that, and should have gotten the Nobel Prize for it. Someone else, frankly, stole it from her. But she's the one that came up with that, and now we know where a majority of the drugs we take work. So a tremendous number of mind-body illnesses, from headaches to skin rashes to irritable bowel. Some of ulcerative colitis is due to that. You think, you react. We are, certainly to an extent, what we eat, but we're more how we think. How we think, because that leads to what we eat. We have to think before we put something in our body. We suffer from a medical standpoint from lack of knowledge. What's good food? What's bad food? There's no question about it. And we're spending $1 trillion on self-inflicted illnesses. Yes, the reason I'm here. Great opportunity to teach you something to get rid of the majority of illnesses hanging out in your family. The majority of them are self-inflicted, but you must participate in your health care, and you will get the knowledge to figure this out. Also, very important at any age to get a health risk assessment, to get a history of what's influencing your health, and get some blood work done. It's very important. Even as a teenager, you can be a skinny teenager, and your blood factors are off. It can be through genetics. There are indeed the skinny fat people. They're thin, but their blood studies are way off. Frankly, you are not what you look like. You are what your blood work looks like. So you can act on it and correct things at a young age. Vascular disease begins at age 35, right? No, age 2. Yeah. That was the Begalusa study in New Orleans. They studied it for 35 years. They autopsied every child that died, accidents and illnesses. And they found fatty streaks at age 2. We're seeing a lot of obesity age 2 to 6. I think many of us don't see it. I mean, a lot of parents don't see that their child is overweight. Take kids' clothes off, look in front of the mirror, have a realistic look at ourselves and our children, because fat, unfortunately, makes 20 nasty chemicals. 20 nasty chemicals that cause vascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Yes, the estrogen in fat causes increased cancer rates. Uterine cancer, females, 75% caused by obesity, the estrogen and hormones, chemicals in fat, told to me by the female cancer specialist at DuPont Hospital. Excellent doctor. Confirmed what I had read. I just double-checked it with her. Breast cancer, perhaps 30% related to obesity. And so there are things you can do to help prevent these things. So you need to know through habits affect your illnesses and learn about the mind-body illnesses from heart pain to chest pain to headaches to skin diseases, backaches, fibromyalgia can all be caused by stress. Learn what these illnesses are, and don't just run off ill to the pill. You know, stick a needle in there or give me a narcotic. I think investigate what this do. Certainly the indications for big-time procedures. But first get yourself screened, and if it's not an emergency, get worked up. So we have this corporate wellness, job wellness, community wellness. You go to some communities like in Fort Wayne, you got to admit, even contribute to them too, some money to these bypass we see. We're developing a community of wellness. Our mayor's involved with it. He's helped leading it, so we have to give him credit for that. A lot of people gave some money to these bike paths. I think we could afford, though, more teaching from a standpoint of nutrition at the school level, the government level, and I think us physicians, when you read this book, The Big Fat Surprise, you see maybe the teaching hasn't been right. It's not the fat. It's the sugar. Fat, some of it, but it's the sugar. So there are a number of steps in this book, Wellness Coaching, by Michael Olasky, in teaching it. Number one of the first steps is we need some self-assessment, HRA, to see where we're at. Are we ready to change? We need to take stock of our wellness. We need to look around us, especially if we're in the habit of, say, not exercising or eating the wrong food, and our best friend or our family is all the same. It's tough because you'll feel social pressure to step out of the norm of the family. No doubt about it. You'd have to be very strong. And that's a persistent problem. That's the reason I see whole families. I like one sitting opposite to me. I was eating out the other night where everybody, including grandpa and little children, all clearly had an eating problem, and I suspect they don't see it. And for one person to stand up in there and say and change will not be easy. And but if you want to be healthy, you got to do it. So we have to look at ourselves and look at it in terms of spirituality and family, and from a work standpoint. And because your employer is going to spend more money on health care for you, obviously, and he may not be able to ask you that when you apply for a job, but boy, he's thinking it when he's looking at you. So important to be physically fit. And it's not easy. This is a no judgment zone. I'm here because to try to solve this problem. My dad had a Delta, New York. I know what bad food is. I know what bad food is. And but we need to focus and maybe ready and see and do some positive thinking and focus on perhaps and be conscious of that. Wait a minute, I weigh 220 pounds. I'm type 2 diabetic. I find most type 2 diabetic, when they have too much insulin, which is the majority of diabetes, the majority of those patients are overweight. Not all of them. 80% of them are overweight. If they don't lose their weight, they're not going to get rid of their diabetes. But that disease is curable 90% of the time. Most type 2 diabetics are not aware of that. But I'm working with a group at Lutheran hospitals with them. They're aware of it. Their spirit is the same as I am. We feel that we can prevent, stop, reverse type 2 diabetes 90% of the time through exercise, proper eating, and reduction of medication. But medications are removed pretty quickly. But don't do it on your own. You got to do it with your doctor and with coaching, maybe especially with one of these doctors or PAs. So clearly, a lot of our bad health habits are habits that are tough to change. But you also, once you develop one, maybe 6 weeks, you change it. It's not impossible. I've been working out at a workout place, Species and Planet Fitness, every day almost for a year and a half. It's a habit. I can't live without it. After the show's done today, I'll be going over there. So it gets to be a habit. And of course, I feel great because of it. Need to repeat it and be patient. And be satisfied with little gains. The gains may not be huge, but I'll tell you honestly, if you start eating right, the changes will be quick. If you're type 2 diabetic and you eat, say, 80% vegetable type diet and watch the meat that you're eating and walk a half hour a day, I'd say you got a good chance to be off majority of medications 6 weeks. Franklin House, Dean Ornish, Dr. Furman would say 2 or 3 weeks. I've seen it. I've seen it. The blood sugar will drop quickly. So you got to tell your doctor if you're eating the right food. Your insulin resistance will change very quickly. So reward yourself for minor successes, and they need to be pointed out to you. The other thing I recommend is that you develop a friend, a social structure, whether this is easier for you. I do some teaching with the Daniel Plan. You may have read about it. There's a book out called The Daniel Plan with Rick Warren in California, where it's a community. With them, it's faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends. This is what they use. Well, you see the point. To change habits, it's good to have friends. In the Daniel Plan, they do it in groups because of our psychological needs. Many of us are eating because food, sugar, affects our brain. It's our cocaine. For many people, sugar is their cocaine. That's what makes them feel good. Some people think that, and I've debated them on TV, and I think they won the debate, that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Yes. I tend to believe it. They've done MRI, functional MRI studies, which have demonstrated the brain, how it lights up sugar, fat, and cocaine. They studied the comparison. It lights up the same. It's our dopamine circuitry of our brain. So if we're going to change, it's a lifestyle. It's not just one individual thing. Neurons are programmed in this habit of maybe eating the wrong food or not exercising, that it takes about 3, 6, 8 weeks for us to change those habits. And sometimes we need to work on our deeper self. Why are we doing this to ourselves? And I've had patients before and say, I can't change. No way, Dr. Rudy, that I can change. And some people I've spoken to, I believe it. I believe it. I think that depends on how important it is to you. Then I try motivational techniques and ask them what they like to achieve. When I see Johnny graduate, have a wedding, have a grandson graduate from college, try to change their mind. That way it can be done. I probably have 200 type 2 diabetics. Their diabetes went away. I have proof. They asked me, they allowed me to take pictures of them. They're on my cell phone. And who are you hanging around with? Your friends. I mean, are your friends taking drugs? Are your friends drinking? Are they smoking? It's tougher. You got to break free of that. That's not easy. So we're looking for a lasting lifestyle change. Then you would be well. So we need to do some periodic self-assessment to see where we're going. The one thing I found, I don't care who I'm speaking to, and believe me, I've spoken to people of every aspect of life, that most people actually are naturally creative. If they make up their mind, I don't care, I'm speaking to prisoners or God knows what people I've spoken to, I can get along with them all. If you spend the time, there's love in all of us. Love is the answer. Once the patient realizes that I love them, which I do, many are willing to change. But I see them back. I don't say, I'll see you next year. No way. 1 month, and many I saw for free. I may have operated their back and say, I'll help you get rid of your type 2 diabetes by seeing you once a month for a year. And I see them, take a picture of them every time. You see the body contracting. They get rid of their diabetes. I've done it lots of times. And believe me, it was a lot of fun. The most fun part of my life. My mother told me to be a doctor. And that's what I'm trying to be. You know what physician means? Teacher. I'm trying to be a teacher. So I try to focus on the whole, the mind and the body, just not in one specific thing. And if they can't exercise, have this excuse or that excuse. I said, well, take up dancing. Well, I can't move that much. Well, dance in place. I do it. In the morning, I dance with the cats and dogs because I was in Dancing with the Stars one year, and I can't help it. But that's another way of exercising, and it's very good. If you're physically able, I tell you the quickest way to get your cardio up, and I saw a presentation on it recently, and I tried it the other day, and I've done it actually a couple of years intermittently, is jump roping. If you can jump rope, that's quick. I met a pair, they run a business that way. They think, doesn't seem believable, but they think if you could jump a rope for an hour, you lose 1,000 calories. I tend to believe that because a good walk for an hour, 200, 250 calories. So I've been doing intermittent rope jumping. I'll do 100, wait 30 seconds, do 80, wait 30 seconds, do 60. This is high intensity intermittent training. Good for your heart, good calorie burn. If you don't have time, that's a good one, if you're able to do it. But you've got to have somebody show you. I mean, that's not something just for anybody. And so let's talk about stages of change. Pre-contemplation. Well, you took this little talk from Cashman, and maybe you're thinking about it. And maybe, a month goes by, maybe you get a phone call from me. Well, I'm contemplating, maybe a nurse is calling. But then you make up your mind, well, I think I want to do this. I want to get rid of this bad health I have. And then you take some action, but then you maintain it. A lot of people, we've heard a zillion times that diets don't work. I agree with that. Do I recommend a diet? Did I say diet? I never said diet. I said change the way you eat it all you want, but eat nutrient-dense food, and don't count the calories, because the phytochemicals in the food will turn your appetite off. If you ate nothing but organic food, like the animals do in nature, how many fat animals do you see? You only see them if they're hibernating, and then they throw a switch. As soon as spring comes, they throw the switch. It's a uricase enzyme, and their obesity goes away. They needed that to live through the winter. But we humans don't have that switch. We don't have that switch. And so we become overweight if we eat the wrong food. And then we need to maintain it. And I think you see a provider or a coach for a couple of years till you decide, I got it. Most people think it takes quite a while to change a habit, but I have seen exceptions. I remember somebody very well that drank a significant amount, and that person changed like that. Boom. That's unusual, but just stopped like that. And that's not common. Most people, it's more difficult than that. And a doctor named Albert Bandura spoke a great deal about self-efficacy. In other words, the power for you to change your behavior, and what makes it stronger. And it's a foundation, frankly, of human motivation and well-being and personal accomplishment. How strong am I? What is my ability to change myself? It's belief in one's ability to change, self-efficacy. And so it affects our behavior. I mean, like I mentioned already, we are what we think and what we eat, but how we think is even ahead of that. So what can we use to encourage ourselves? Well, small successes. I already spoke about that you really compliment somebody. That's the reason it's good to have a friend you're doing this with, or a group that you do this with, or like they do in the Daniel Plan. They have a committee of 5 or 6 that look at wellness in their total life, not just the way they're eating, the whole life, stress, finances, teach each other, for example. And role modeling is a value, but role models work different for different people. Obviously, what I teach, I eat exactly what I teach, and you think, wow, what a role model. But that isn't going to change necessarily that many that many people. Different people need different role models. We all have our own little role model that we like to follow. Teenage girls, for example, have a different role model, and it's kind of interesting. So verbal and social pressures can affect our behavior, and looking at ourselves, taking our clothes off, look in the mirror. Wow, I'm looking great. Positive statements, and visualizing how much healthier you're going to be in the future. Ways of positive role modeling, and we're more likely to change if we commit to something, verbally say something to somebody, and then we feel a sense of control. Frankly, it's the 4 C's, like people who lived in a concentration camp and survived. They felt a sense of control, and they made a commitment to stay with it, not give up. And they felt congruity. They felt like this is a bigger thing in spirituality, that they could get done what they had in mind. And let's go back to leadership again a minute. If you're working for the company, and it's a wonderful thing if your leadership, the managers, the head CEO, assistant CEO, if they are involved with you in this and have and promote this culture of wellness in all aspects, not just health, but in social and your children and things that might come along, and listen to you, and repetitive jobs especially. How is this affecting you? Are you getting proper rest periods? Are they providing facilities for you to work out? Do they have lunch and learns? Do they have health coaching available? These are all very important to lead well and living well, and to be an example to the community. Obviously, wellness is my passion, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I figure I wouldn't get no place unless I exemplify it. And no doubt I do. I work out 2 hours a day now that I get the time. I'm not a neurosurgeon anymore. I quit that last August. I have the time now, but if I don't exemplify what I do, I don't see any reason why you should follow me. So, because I truly believe in it, but that's not going to do it. You need to be the whole thing. You need to develop other people that influence you around you, like your person that at work, a friend, a champion at work that's working with you. So we need a strategy throughout the company that we all get involved in it. For example, this is ripple effect. If the leadership in the company is exemplifying this, like changing the food in the cafeteria and providing lunch and learns, and patting you on the back for your achievement, and giving some rewards, perhaps taking something off your health insurance if you establish certain goals, but participation in if that's the only part that you have, you get a little off your healthcare premium if you achieve X, is probably not enough. From me studying the RAND report, I think it's a good step in that direction, but I think it's going to take more than that. I think it's going to take a community, because there's a we in wellness, not just an I. It's an I in illness. There's a we in wellness. We all need to get involved with this, and need to assess ourselves and our ability. Maybe go to the wellness champion in your group, if you have one, to ask for some help. Maybe to walk with you, to go take that half-hour walk with you, or go or participate in a bike race, or whatever. I know of a church that's really serious about the Daniel Plan, and I work on it myself, incidentally. I'm working with about 10 ministers on the 10 Daniel Plan, and we walk with them, we race with them, we give lectures with them. We have a phone bank Monday night at 7. Tonight, I guess there's one where we dialed a certain number, and we all talk to each other, which I think that's a great one. I haven't heard anybody else ever use that. Yeah, phone bank. That was Minister Karen Staples who I'm going to do a show with next year, I think, who brought this up. And I think that's a great one, where you can speak to someone, ask your questions on how to get well. So, and I mentioned before, this move a little, lose a lot at work. Write down, make a list of things you could do to increase your calorie burn at work. If you just overworked, you got 2 or 3 kids, you get a job, and you can be able to keep up with things, but want to stay healthy. Maybe while you're working, you can do it. Okay. Now, some people's jobs are so physical, it makes no difference what they eat. I've visited, and that's been fun for me. I visited some Amish farms of families that I'd operate on just to learn their culture, and it's been very educational for me. That I don't totally agree with the food they're eating, but they're all very look real healthy. They're working it off. You can indeed eat lousy food and work it off by physical activity. But for most of us, don't work because we're sitting around too much, so don't even think of it. Don't even think of it. You know, you can burn calories off, no doubt about it. But exercise alone will not do it. I'll tell you right now. And we need to develop strategies in our life to stay well. And the ripple effect, if the leadership in the company, the corporation does it, it'll ripple down with the employees. It won't just affect health. It'll employ their psychology, their stress level, and many other things. And it's wonderful if the head of the company is a role model, and because they're walking the walk, and look healthy. And you need to manage your stress well. We all get stressed. We all do. What did I use? Music, dancing, walking, Herb Benson's deep breathing technique, where you close your eyes, meditate, and take 20 real deep breaths. That'll relax your body. You can do that sitting at work, driving down the street. So controlling your stress, I think, is a big thing. So in summary, we've covered your job, whether you're working for 5 people at the job, or there's 30 people at work, or a few thousand people at work. The whole place can have a culture if you talk to each other, work with the managers, work with the CEO. You all work together to develop this culture of wellness. It'll get the whole corporation better. They'll make more money. They've studied that they do make more money. Thank you very much for watching this show, and we'll continue to have them. This will be on Comcast 57, Wednesdays at 9 to 10, and we'll keep on doing them. It generally is about health, wellness. I've got a show that I've done on sitting disease, for example, stress, narcotic medications. I've written a number of books, which you can find on Amazon. And if you like a particular book you'd like me to read, send it to me. I'll meet you at Starbucks and review it with you. I've done that a number of times. I'm just interested in getting you well. That's my only passion about it. This is strictly work I'm doing as a physician, and it's been very rewarding. I've had many people become well, but help bring wellness to your company. Call me and I'll talk to them. Do the lunch and learn, for example, and we love you all, and don't forget, love is the answer. Love is the answer. And knowledge. We need knowledge.